Many people believe that living in the country or living a more simple life is just out of their reach or it's too hard. Today I'm going to share with you many of the ways that I still live a very simple life and some of the ways that my family did in years past. I hope you enjoy this video. Conveniences that are at our fingertips, like stores right down the road, restaurants, and things being delivered the same day or the next day, are some of the things that a few of us still live without who live in the country, and we wouldn't trade it for anything. I love having the wide open spaces. I also love the peace and quiet. I love hanging my clothes on the line because it is peaceful for me. It gets me outside. I enjoy the sunshine. In fact, it is my favorite task to do on the farm. I don't have an espresso machine. I don't have an air fryer. I don't even have an ice cube maker. I don't have a large screen TV. I don't have a rice cooker. In fact, we only have one TV that's 32-inch. I have no dishwasher, no Stanley Cup, no central AC, no central heating, and I don't even have electricity in some of my rooms. I have one bathroom in my house that my 6 children, my husband and I used as we were raising them, and we learned to wait and be patient and to work together to get in the bathroom to meet our needs. I don't even have a garage that is large enough to hold a car. The garage that was built here was built back in the day when they had Model Ts and Model As. They were a lot thinner car, and so the garage is so thin that you could not put a regular car in it today and open your door to get out. So we just put in a regular walk-through door to use it as a shed. So I don't even have a garage for our vehicles. But what I do have is I have my own water well. I have 2 ponds that are stocked with fish. I have a 1-room cabin in addition to my 1907 farmhouse. I have a donkey. I have picnic tables that my dad built that are sturdy, and they will outlive all of us, including tornadoes, because they are so heavy. It takes about 5 men to lift them. And some of you that are watching this are probably saying, what are those pool floaties doing above her head? Well, this is one of the picnic tables that my dad made, and it has a canopy with shingles, but those are steel pipes that he used for those canopies. And I have boys that are like 6'4", 6'5", 6'7", and it hurts when they hit their head on those corners because they're not as tall as they are. So I put those on there to try to deflect that situation. I have a tractor tire sandbox for the grandkids. In fact, my grandkids from the city love coming out here. They hate it when they have to leave. They love the wide open spaces, the ability to run around and play without constant supervision and still be safe. I have fences made out of pallets, made out of coat hangers to fix my fence. I have flowers, I have a garden, and I wouldn't trade it for anything. When I grew up, old tires were never disposed of. They were used to put around rose bushes so that you wouldn't mow over them. They were used to make tire swings. Everything that was considered used up in one way then served another purpose. We got our first telephone, which was a party line, in 1979 when I was in 8th grade. That is also the year that we got a microwave. My grandparents had had phones for years, but we didn't have phones. I remember getting sick at school one time and having to use the CB radio that the buses used to try to get a hold of my dad to come pick me up. He didn't answer. He was probably busy on the farm, even though he had CBs on all the tractors and in all of the pickups in case we needed him. he didn't hear me call. And so I had to call my 80-year-old grandparents to come pick me up. I remember them driving home about 40 miles an hour with one of those little bags on the handle that you use to roll up the window in case I got sick. I even remember our CB radio call letters, KNH 0835. We had large cards with our call letters on there that we would give to people when we met them, when we were camping, or when we were on vacation. We listened in to the truckers when we were traveling to know where the police were, to know when there was accidents. That was the way that we kept track of when the roads were clear. There was no GPS, there was a CB radio. I grew up with homemade clothing except for my underwear and my socks. My mom made all of our clothes, and she grew up with her clothes being made out of old chicken feed bags. They were the ones with the designs. The flour bags were the plain bags that were used for underwear and tea towels. In fact, I just went through all of my old tea towels last week and cut up the bad ones and made them into rags. They will have a second use in my home. They won't just be discarded. My parents grew up with an ice box, not a refrigerator, and they would leave money for the iceman who would come once a week. They would leave money on their kitchen table and put a note on their door, and the children, my parents, would hide in the back bedrooms because they were scared of the iceman, and that is how they kept their food cold. As my aunt got older, they got a gas refrigerator that they would turn on before they were ready to make ice. There's a lot of things that I do that are cheaper than actually going to the city. You would think that going to the city would be cheaper for a lot of things, but we have our oil changed still at a local garage, and he charges $24 less an oil change than they do in the city. That would be surprising, I think, for a lot of people. But some of those local businesses will charge less because they want to keep you from driving and they want to keep your money local. So that's where we get our oil change. We have to make an appointment, which I don't mind because that keeps me from waiting in line also in the city. And I am able to save a lot of money, wait comfortably in their old-fashioned decorated office area, and come home saving almost $25 in my pocket. I also don't use planners or budget planners. I just use old-fashioned notebook paper and calendars that we get free from our bank. I use our bank calendars to plan all of the things that go on in the month, from birthdays to weekends that we're going to get away, to days that my bills are due, to days that I get cash back from credit cards. Everything, including days that I get any income, are marked on that calendar. That's free. I'm still using an iPhone 8 that works great, that I film my videos on. I'm still driving a 2012 car that I bought used just a couple of years ago with only 60-some thousand miles. These are things that I do to save money, to make my life more simple, less costly, and afford me the ability to be able to live a more simple life in an area that I love. I love having my own water well with no water bill each month. When my parents grew up, they had a hand pump, and they didn't even have a windmill. So the hand pump was used to even fill the cattle water tanks. On years that there were droughts, my aunt would ride the horse down the county roads that just had 2 tracks and grass, herd the cattle, let them eat out of the ditches, let them drink from the stream, and bring them back home. They rode a horse to school. They met other kids along the way and helped get the little ones to school. They had a barn to park their horses in during school. It was all so old-fashioned, so simple, but yet their memories are so fond of the days that they grew up. I feel the same way out here. I was raised by Depression-era parents, and I was raised very much like they were. And then here living in this area, I raised my kids very similar. They had some more modern things, but a lot of things we did not get until like 2010. And so my kids, some of them will still say that they were raised like they were Depression era as well. But they know how to survive on very little. They know how to make ends meet. They know how to stretch a dollar. They don't have to, many of them, but they know how. And I feel like that's so important. They love coming home to this area. They love remembering things that they did together as kids. And this area is just a place of peace for everyone. My grandma even raised turkeys, and people would come out from the city to purchase turkeys for Christmas and Thanksgiving. So even though I do not live as primitive, I don't have a lot of modern conveniences. I don't have a kitchen that would support all of those kitchen gadgets. I have electricity in the kitchen, but I have only a couple of plugs because when this house was built, it was built before there was electricity. And then when it was added, it wasn't added to support all of the things that we have today. So I even have to be careful to this day of running too many things at the same time. And yes, I could upgrade my home. I could spend the money to add more plugins and to add more gadgets, but I don't see the need. I'm able to operate comfortably like this. It keeps me from buying all those new gadgets as they come out and trying to find somewhere to store them in an old farmhouse that doesn't have a lot of storage. So I'm perfectly content the way I am. Being content, I feel, has been key to me being able to afford to retire early. A lot of people are struggling with that idea of whether or not they would be able to retire early. But keeping things simple and keeping costs low are really key to being able to retire or retire early. Things are so expensive. The cost of living is out of this world. But if we can live as simply as possible, we can still afford all of the things we need and some of the things that we want. When I watch old movies or I read old books, I'm most interested in my parents' era. And I think that's because I can identify so much with that, with the way that I was raised. I'm actually Gen X. I was raised more like a boomer. And a lot of people will assume that I'm older than I am because of the way that I was raised. However, I feel like it's given me a really good foundation to be able to retire early. I'm not sure if I would have been able to, if I would have been caught up in all of the conveniences and the new things that are offered these days and tried to buy a lot of the things so that I stayed more modern in my home living. By not doing that, it has afforded me the ability to continue my living in this beautiful area, still vacation, still have money for all of my needs and some of my wants, and share some of those traditions with you. I know at times this channel may be way different than some of the other frugal channels that you listen to. So I appreciate you tuning in to me and listening to some of the history that went along with my family and that era. I do have 2 Depression era cookbooks that I have written that share all of my family's favorite recipes that I still use today, and I keep them handy in the kitchen because they are our favorites still. They're in the description box below if you're interested. I hope you will join me in future videos. I'm very glad to have you here. I hope you have a great week.